Hey everyone, it's Jared here, and we are at the second to last episode, or lesson, or whatever you want to call it, of the Independence Made Easy, lesson number 25. And you might think this, I would have gotten clever and made this on the lesson 25 rudiment, but this has nothing to do with that rudiment, so don't worry about that. So we're going to take a little bit of a shift, but we're still going to play around with some of the rhythms that are fresh in your mind, right? And we're going to start incorporating our bass drum foot a little bit more. So up to this point, we've been practicing the different hand patterns, that left hand pattern or your snare hand pattern. Now we're really going to start working out that bass drum foot. And so first of all, before I get too far into this, I want to say that a lot of times when drummers start studying this kind of stuff, or especially with bass drum, they right away kind of allude to speed. How do I get a faster bass drum? How do I get a quick double stroke? How do I get a quick triple stroke? And they make it very much a thing based around technique. And I think that technique is important with the bass drum pedal, but you don't really need to worry about in this case. Like in this case, we're just practicing independence, we're practicing control. And when you practice that sort of stuff, naturally the speed will come. And so I would really say don't worry about speed. I played it at the faster tempos, and actually with this stuff, this is stuff that I'm very much still working on. So the way I'm demonstrating and the way I'm showing it to you, it's almost at the ceiling of my capabilities, okay? So it's something that I'm constantly still working on, and especially as we get into some of the left foot stuff incorporating with the bass drum, it's even more challenging. Now that said, just to kind of like clarify some things, I'm going to talk a little bit about the technique that I do use, and you can choose to use this or something different. So a lot of times when I play like groups of three, and if you're looking at the sheet music, you'll see, oh, there's lots of groups of three. How do I do that? How do I do it that fast, right? And you think you need a specific technique, but you don't. Like, you see where my foot is on the pedal here? And when I'm playing these techniques, if I want a little bit more speed or a little bit, if I want to have less foot movement from where I press down the top of my foot to where it goes down to the bottom, what I do is I just slide my foot slightly down the pedal. Okay? So if I need to play a group of consistent notes, even if I'm just playing them, a bunch of 16th notes, now you'll notice how my foot just naturally slides down that pedal. If I were to try and play those with my foot at the top of the pedal, it would be much, much more difficult. You see how much more movement is required? So when I'm playing this sort of thing, I'm not moving my entire leg. I'm not lifting up and dropping my leg on every single stroke. Okay, if I did that, it wouldn't work. It's the same thing like doing a single stroke roll like this, or like this. So there's a few different ways to get the result. If you need more power, you have to use more arm. You have to use more leg. But if you want power, in many cases you sacrifice speed. Now, there's some incredible drummers that can have amazing power with amazing speed, but that comes with time and practice, muscle development, lots of playing over long periods of time. Okay, so if you're trying to get these quick triple strokes, just move your foot slightly down the pedal. And in order to kind of warm up for something like this, just practice 16th notes. Okay, and even there you'll hear some inconsistencies, but I just kind of like monitor it and try and stay attentive to what exactly is going on and how my leg is feeling and how much, if I'm getting pain up here, it's sometimes good to take a break, or that means you're lifting your leg up too much, so you can try and like raise your seat up if you need. But experiment with different things to try and get this end result. Now, let's move on to the exercise, because this is not supposed to be a technique, a technique lesson. We're not really supposed to get into a lot of this kind of stuff, and we have lots of those lessons inside of Drumeo Edge. So if you are a Drumeo Edge student, you need to go and check out some of those lessons, and if you really want to hone your bass drum technique. Okay, so getting into this, we're basically going to take those same rhythms and start applying them with our bass drum foot. So let's just review the hand pattern. So here's the hand pattern played at 60 and 90 beats per minute. Okay, so now the first set of notes is on 1 E and, 2 E and, 3 E and, 4 E and. Okay, so it's actually quite hard to just jump right into it and start right on that. So if you need to just play the hi-hat and snare part to start before you start them all together, that's totally cool. Here's how it sounds. Next, we're dropping the first 16th note of every count. So it's a really cool sounding drum beat, actually, and you might really like this one. In the next exercise, we're not playing a hit on the and of each 16th note grouping. Here we go. And on the fourth exercise, we're dropping out on the E of each 16th note grouping. Here it is. Now for you beginners, that's kind of as far as I want you to get. And like I said earlier on in the video, do not worry about speed, okay? Just play it at 50 or 60 beats per minute and be totally happy with that. Focus on, gaining that independence and really understanding where everything's landing. And, your foot's gonna get a workout for sure, but really just focus on making the timing consistent and making it sound like a really nice groove. Okay, so beginners, that's what I want you to do. If you can also practice them all sequentially. Intermediate drummers, we're gonna go and practice those more random patterns with the bass drum foot. And this is kind of where you wanna get to. So some stuff I did in the intro is a little bit more random, and I'm just coming up with patterns on the fly. And that's really how you use this kind of stuff more so. Not so much like, exercise 1. There's very few songs that go da-da-dun, cha-da-dun, da-da-dun, cha-da-dun, da-da-dun. Although there is some. There's not tons of them like that. So it's more random type of rhythms that match the music. So either match what the bass player is playing or match what the guitar player is doing. And you have to have the independence to basically match whatever they're doing. And so these are the tools that are going to help you get there. So intermediates, I want you to practice 1 through 4 as well as these last 2 random patterns. So this next one, number 5, is the first one. So the 6th exercise is actually another random pattern, and you'll notice on counts 3 and 4, you have a group of 7 quicker 16th notes. The last note is actually an 8th note, but it still comes right after the previous 16th note quite quickly. So this is where you'll notice you might actually have to make some shifts in where your bass drum foot is on the footboard, even to get it at the slower tempos of 50 or 60 beats per minute. Let's hear how it sounds. And now for you advanced drummers, I want you to practice 1 through 4 as well as these last 2 random patterns. So let's hear how those sound. So finally, for you advanced drummers, we want to start incorporating the left foot. Now, when we were doing the left hand stuff on the snare, it was easier to incorporate the left foot because it wasn't, the left foot and the right foot are kind of like 2 peas in a pod. They're brother and sister, right? And the left hand and the right hand, same thing. But when we're starting to do these, unique rhythms with the bass drum foot and then adding in a separate rhythm with the hi-hat foot, it's actually more of a challenge. So let's just look at a few of these examples so I can show you how they sound. So let's look at exercise 1 played with the hi-hat on all quarter notes. So hi-hat pattern A. Here we go. And for fun, let's let's look at exercise 4 with the hi-hat pattern B, okay? And let's try the 8th notes on the hi-hat, so hi-hat pattern C, and we'll do that with exercise 2. So I find that stuff quite challenging, and hopefully it challenges you as well. I mean, you might latch on to a few of these patterns that you really like, and so if you just want to practice a few of them and not really work on all of them, that's totally cool. Also, I will say, if you want to write some of your own type of random bass drum patterns, just get out some sheet music, some blank sheet music, and start writing in those rhythms. You might come up with some really, really cool drum beats that you never knew before. And so that's a way that I like to kind of be creative, is I write something, try it, and then I'm like, oh, this will sound cool maybe without that bass drum or without that bass drum. So you erase a few or you add a few more in, and then you end up with this really cool piece of drumming vocabulary. So I'd recommend you work on that. You kind of make this stuff your own. I'll also say, for some of you who, and you've made comments below in the videos, you say stuff like, oh, Jared, you're so, you can play this stuff so easily, or it's how do you make it look so easy? And I want to tell you guys, this is the culmination of a lot of practice, okay? Even when I'm playing these exercises for you here, you're hearing like the good versions of them. I play multiple versions a lot of times where I'll just I'll try and play something and it just won't happen. And so even now, I'm still practicing this stuff, still struggling with it every time I go back to it. It's hard stuff. And you don't have to feel bad. You don't have to look at me and say, oh, it's so easy for you. It's absolutely not easy for me, and it's something that I'm still working on, and it's something I practiced for hours and hours and hours before the day I came in the studio here to teach it to you, okay? So you're getting it today, but I got it like 3 years ago, actually, when I first wrote this stuff. And so that's when I started working on it. And so 3 years later, this is where I am, okay? And so don't worry if in 1 week you don't have it all perfectly. Just take your time, be patient. Like I've always said, this entire course, there's so many kind of recurring themes. One of them is progress, not perfection. Another one of them is enjoy the process, right? Sometimes I find when I hit that goal or that end result that I really wanted to, it's actually a little bit anticlimactic. I actually really preferred the process of getting there, right? And so just enjoy it, right? You have your whole life to play drums. Enjoy the process of learning and enjoy the process of practicing and using this vocabulary, when you play in music, whether that's, jamming on stage in front of hundreds of thousands of people, or whether that's playing in your garage with your friends or playing in your church, or whatever you do. Just have fun with it, okay? So thank you all so much for watching this lesson. I really, really appreciate all the time you've put into this course, all the time you've put into commenting on the videos, all the time you've put into practicing. Please leave a comment below this video and answer this one question. How much time do you think you spent practicing the Independence Made Easy lessons this past almost 6 months now? And then I will see you in our last and final lesson next week. See you then.